right. Good morning. First of all, welcome to everyone. Today is Wednesday, February 2nd, and we are going to do the final presentation for Sweetgrass Roots Learning Farm, which is located in right outside of Walterboro, South Carolina, and it's in the Lowcountry. And we have the owner, Miss Kisha Kinard, and also Tyrik Cooper, who's a PhD student at NC State, majoring in forestry and natural resources, I believe. And he'll get into that in a little bit. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I am going to turn off everyone, or if you can, please turn off your mics. We will have some time at the end for questions and answers and comments. But if there's something that you'd like to ask during the presentation, please be sure to raise your hand, and if Tyrik is able to stop and answer, he can, or put it into the chat feature, and he'll make sure he checks that pretty frequently. And again, I think I've interviewed everyone that's on the call. We have Miss Queenie Crawford has just joined us, who is also from Walterboro, South Carolina, and she's a community leader here. And let's see, and we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Let's see. It's coming up. Yes.
Okay. Come on. Okay. So, like Kelly said, my name is Tyrik Cooper. I am a PhD student at North Carolina State University, and originally I was at Florida A&M University pursuing a PhD in environmental science. And my concentration was more aquatics and terrestrial ecology. So I kind of switched gears a little bit, and I love the opportunity that I got to have with you, Kisha, because it gave me an opportunity to utilize everything that I learned at North Carolina State within my time there. And it helped me just come up with great ideas. And I am currently I am a student analyst with NC Growth and SmartUp. And I'm going to be talking about Sweetgrass Roots Learning Farm. And that's located in Walterboro, South Carolina. And like Kelly said, the owner is Kisha Kinard. That's who I've been having my contacts with. And she also has a husband, Charles Kinard, who is an Army veteran. So thankful for the opportunity that you guys have gave and trusted me with your project. And I titled this project A Sweet Opportunity to Learn the Roots. And as I get to explain exactly why, what Kisha plan is to utilize her land and the things that she want to do with her farm, you'll begin to understand exactly why I titled the project the way I did. But one thing I want to make notice of what I learned recently is that Kisha's idea for this came from her grandmother, because her grandmother was in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and that area is known for basket weaving. So the people there that were weaving baskets, they're known for selling them on Highway 17, and their stands on both sides of the road. So she learned this craft from her mothers and her grandmothers, and what she wanted to do is help continue that legacy. So now I begin to understand when she was talking about basket weaving and sweetgrass, I see that it's very near and dear to her heart. And I am, again, thankful for this opportunity. This was one of the projects that I listed as #1 when Kelly gave us the opportunity to. So I was very excited to work on this project. And just to give a little bit of information about NC Growth and SmartUp before I get into my presentation with you, Kisha, is that NC Growth and SmartUp is a nonprofit organization, and what we try to do is build job opportunities and equality. And one thing that we try to do applied research, and we also try to give technical assistances. And those technical assistances are usually through economic development and also entrepreneurship business. And this work is supported by Economic Development Administration, Truist USDA, the Keenan Institute of Private Enterprises, and others. Okay. So I am actually going to show you guys one of the things that I have done, which is my statement of which is my scope of work. So my scope of work was basically me getting the idea of what Kisha wanted from her land and everything that she wanted to do from the meeting that we had, the initial meeting. And one thing that she wanted to do is she wanted to ditch the idea and help people understand that a farm isn't just a typical farm. She wanted to get rid of that stereotype and understand that there's different ways that you can have a farm and different activities that you can do. And her main thing was she wanted to do agribusiness, again, with basket weaving in particular, because she was proud of her product and she's proud of the uniqueness of Sweetgrass. And in addition to marketing her farm, she also seeked with composing a business plan and a scope, because the land is fairly new. There's not much on the land as of now, but this is a great opportunity for her to understand exactly what the land is capable of doing. And also it gives her an opportunity to also I'll give her the opportunity to have any other ideas that she can put on the farm to gain more attention, because I thought she might want to expand just in the Walterboro region, but she actually wants to expand in the Gullah Geechee corridor. And I included this slide because for the people that don't know what the Gullah Geechee corridor is, and I'm ashamed to say that originally I didn't know what it was, and I had to familiarize myself. And I'm ashamed of that because I'm from Savannah, Georgia, and I'm in it. So the Gullah Geechee corridor actually it covers the land from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way to Wilmington, North Carolina, and as you can see, it goes inland about 30 miles. So she has a wide region that she wants to cover, and I love that. And what I wanted to do then was propose a management plan and help her, understand, get all her ideas, understand her land, and see exactly what can we do and what's the best way that we can get her to achieve her goals. So
Tyrik,
yes.
don't mean to interrupt you, but can you share the slides? Somehow it went away.
Oh, it's. Is it not? Okay, can you see it?
Yes, now.
Okay. So these are plants that Kisha originally mentioned, that you mentioned that you want to grow on your land, which was gourds, yellow cotton, longleaf pine, indigo. You also mentioned rice, and I cannot forget the main crop, which is sweetgrass. So I just wanted to help create this management plan, which also includes land capability, laws and regulations, insurance. And every landowner that I've had the luxury to speak with, usually when I try to explain information to them, they want to know, okay, but how much is it going to cost me and how much can I make? So I do want to impose the cost and profit that you can get with these things. So I understand that you weren't too concerned with the profit, but I wanted you to understand that if you're going to have these features on your land, there's also an opportunity that you can gain money from it and help improve your land, and help do other projects that you might want to do with your land, and it gains even more attraction to your farm as opposed to just the Gullah Geechee corridor. I personally would like Sweetgrass Farms to be more than just within the corridor. I wanted to eventually, within some years or decades even, expand throughout the United States. And then we also we shared some emails about the utilization of the land. What can we do now, and then future goals as well. So those are X'd out because that is what I'm going to be talking to you today about, Kisha. And I also have developing a brand, advertisement, and networking. Those are other things that's on my scope of work. I just didn't get enough time. I didn't have enough hours to actually help with those things, but it is within your scope of work. And it's within detail. So I want to start off with land capability, which if we're going to grow all of these crops on your land and on your property, we have to look at your land size, which was 12.79 acres. So it's pretty good land size. We want to do the pH preferences of all these plants because they're going to have different pH preferences. The soil type. What kind of soil do you have on your land? Is it loam? Is it clay, sandy clay loam? That makes a big difference as well because it helps assist in root structure And then on climate preferences, is South Carolina, is Walterboro capable of producing these plants? I'm not too concerned with the climate preferences because those plants didn't seem to require much as far as that. And South Carolina doesn't get too cold to the point where those plants are going to wilt and die. So I wasn't too concerned, but I also just wanted to include that within the management plan. And I blocked out all of your information, of course, and I recommended that you do a soil test at Clemson University because I went on this app that's called SoilWeb. And SoilWeb is something that I learned from my advisor, Dr. Zakia Leggett, where I can type in the address, which I typed in your address, Kisha, and then you can click on different parts of the property, and it tells you the soil type that's there. So just playing around on SoilWeb and clicking on the different areas of your property, I noticed that you have at least 3 different types of soil that was there. That's why I wanted you to do a soil test at Clemson. They offer it for $3 a sample, and usually as scientists we do things in triplicates. So I just wanted you to do. I wanted you to get soil samples in triplicates around your land. That way we can get an understanding. But you were one step ahead of me. You already had a soil test done from Clemson, and that is what is presented here. So as you can see, like your soil pH was about a 5.9 that they reported. That is great for longleaf pine, but for other plants that prefer more basic soil, we're gonna have a problem there. And that's why I recommended originally, like, maybe we can lime it because lime would increase the pH a little bit. And then as you can see, your calcium levels are at medium. So if we lime it, we can try to get your calcium levels as sufficient as well, because pH plays a big role on elements that's available within your soil. And certain elements, such as phosphorus, it has the influence of other elements, such as calcium, actually, which can, if you have excess of phosphorus, it can cause your calcium levels to be low. So that's something that we can see here, and that's known as the antagonism effect. So Clemson actually provided information on what you should do in order to achieve your ideal pH for the plants that you wanted to grow. And they recommended that you lime, and they also gave specific amounts that you should do. So Clemson did a lot of that work for me, but I do want to include that. And then Keisha, I know you remember that we had a meeting, and I had this triangle here. And what I was doing is explaining to you, like, okay, let's say your land had loam. Well, this triangle helps you understand that, okay, publications are saying that rice plants thrive extremely well in clay type soils, but if you have loam type soils, we can go to loam, and now we can use this triangle and we can look at the clay percentage, the sands percentage, and the silt percentage. And then we can understand if we want to go further with trying to implement clay around the areas that you plan on growing your rice, or you might have different properties that's more clay-like. You can have sandy clay on your land, let's say, and it might be sufficient enough for your rice plants. So it all just depends on location, but I've just wanted to show this triangle and wanted to talk you through it to make sure that you understand, like, okay, different soil types have different compositions, and different plants are going to require those different compositions. And then we get to the laws and constructions, and I'm not going to read everything word for word, of course, but I know we discussed that there were 2 ravines on the property that were originally tobacco fields. So originally you mentioned the possibility of building a structure on one of the ravines. And you also mentioned building like an overpass so that your guests can have access and they can be easier access for like parking for the land. One of the things that you have to do is, even though you have private property, you still have to abide by the construction laws of South Carolina. So I looked into the laws of South Carolina, and it wants building permits. Of course, you have to get inspections. It also recommended that you have a geotechnical engineer. And I included the cost of the geotechnical engineer because it's a wide range cost. It's between $700 and $5,000, and it depends on the property size. So I wanted to include that because you can proceed to go on with doing an overpass or doing this building, but I wanted you to know exactly how much just for one of those things costs. And it might be something that you just want to table. And then once you start to develop the land a little bit more, you might want to, okay, now I want to get this geotechnical engineer. And now I want to have this overpath. Now I want to have this building, because you might want to convert that building into something. We talked about a commercial kitchen. So you might want to convert that building to a commercial kitchen or anything. So that information and a lot more details regarding what you have to do in South Carolina to get these structures going on your property, those are in your management plan as well. And chickens, you mentioned that you wanted chickens, bees, goats, and those are more so for the appeal of the children that will be at the farm. So I looked into the South Carolina state laws of chicken, which is in the Muni Code, and it's in Chapter 4, Section 435, and it's titled Raising or Keeping Chickens Generally, which I kind of laughed at because it's a whole section that's dedicated to it. And I'm from the city. I am Savannah, Chicago, Tallahassee, and Durham. So the fact that, people are talking about raising chickens on their residence, I was just mind blown by that. But there are different types of rules and regulations within South Carolina according to the counties. So originally, I know I put down that you can have up to 4 chickens. They all have to be men. They all have to be hens, which are females. You cannot have any roosters. That is for Columbia, South Carolina, but somewhere as far as Walterboro, residents can have up to 23 chickens. And because you are technically a business owner, I believe that you can have more than that. You just have to get an inspection from the animal control and get certified for that. And part of that certification is going to be $5 per bird per year. So if you decided to go with the maximum amount, if you were to go the resident route, you'll be paying about $115 a year just for your chickens. Up to, I should say, $115 per year. You might want to have less chickens than that. But again, in your plan, I have included the breeding chickens that you can possibly have. More rules and regulations as far as the chicken coop. The chicken coop can't be within a certain distance of your residence, a certain distance of your neighbors, 12.79 acres. I don't imagine that you're going to have a problem with those acres, problem with neighbors. But you also have to comply to laws such as it can't be a nuisance, meaning the smell. You have to dispose of the chicken waste properly. You have to make sure that they are fenced in at some capacity to make sure that you don't have any predators that's attacking the chickens, because that's going to be considered as animal cruelty and noise. We have to make sure that there's not going to be a noise complaint. So if you were to have these complaints, or if you were to be in violation of the inspection of the animal control, they can give you an excessive fine, or they can ultimately confiscate your chickens. And then we get to the bees. And I included bees because this process is a little bit different. South Carolina doesn't have strict laws when it comes to bees, only when you want to transport them across state lines. So all honey sold in South Carolina must be packaged and labeled according to the state and federal law. And before you process and sell the honey, you have to meet the guidelines of the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. So when you compose a label, it must be submitted to the SCDA for approval prior to you selling. And then we have these honey houses, which is just the home of the bees, and they get inspected by the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. It's not required, but it's highly recommended, and that's what they said in their laws. And the honey producers must obtain a registration verification certificate prior to you selling that honey. Now, I know, again, you said that this is just for appeal to kids, but again, if you're going to have bees on the property, you might want to utilize some of the products that they make, and then you can gain more profit for the land to improve. And that's what I was thinking. And then with bees in particular, they had a blurb there that said if you sell less than 400 gallons of honey a year, you can sell directly to the consumer without applying for that registration verification and certificate. So it's called the honey exemption. So it's less work that you will have to do for potentially more profit. And then we get to insurance. I want to talk about insurance in particular because in case you do have a guest, you want to make sure that your land is insured. I would recommend that towards anybody. I mean, it could be a car, house, anything, insurance. At minimum, at least, I recommend having liability because it protects you from any claims that's made by a third party on the land. And then I also wanted to include that if you have a trespasser and there's absolutely no public rights to your land, they still have the right to sue you. They probably more than likely will not win, but you will be paying vast sums of legal fees if you're not adequately protected. So liability insurance will cover you from something as simple as trespassers. So I do recommend that, as well as if you decide to go with the structure, the overpass structure. If you if a car, let's say it collapsed due to erosion or anything like that, you'll be protected. So I always look to, I was raised with CYOA, and to make it more professional, is cover your own self. So I always just make sure that I would like to make sure that you're covered and that you have as less stress as possible as you endure your journey to doing this farm. And then we get to the costs. So these are general costs that you will have if you were to continue to get these animals onto your farm. You'll have to do a new hive, clothing and gear, bees, a honey extractor, and camping knife. And with the honey extractor, depending on what you want to do, I include a manual cost and an electrical cost. Of course, the electrical cost, the electrical extractor is going to be a lot less work that you will have to do. Or if you hired a worker, it'll be a lot less work that worker has to do. Sometimes it could be a work smarter and a harder type thing. It all depends up to you. And then I also included the supplies of the chickens. So in addition to labeling the type of chickens that you can have on your property for breeding, chicken, I included the cost, and it depends on the breed, the age, the sex. And you can have the feed. I included the feed. It can be $30 per month or $150 per month if it's organic. I know some people would probably look at this as $30 a month. I'm gonna go with that. It's cheaper. It's just chickens. I'm gonna feed them. I'm utilizing their eggs. But chickens produce eggs according to A, their happiness, and B, their health. So you can have more egg production and more quality egg production if you went with the organic feed. That's why I included it. And when we get to the profit section, which is on the next slide, maybe you can see exactly why I would recommend the organic feed if you decided to continue with chickens. And then on top of that, you'll have the coop, which is $200 to $2,000. It depends on the state regulations. It depends on the size that you want to have, how many chickens that you want to have. And then we go with the bedding, the feeders, and the waterers. So when we get to the profit, you can have honey, and you can sell that for $10 per pound. All the prices that I got from here are from recent benchmarks. So this is the 2021 benchmark prices that I got from all of these. And this, of course, I can't include 2022, we just started. But these are averages. And then I also, if you see the dashes, I picked the very lowest end that things were selling for and the very highest end. It all just depends on what you might want to sell things for. And so you can sell beeswax, which is $12 to $20 per pound. And then you can have candles, also, which is beeswax. And these candles you can sell for over $20. And it also generated an idea for me, which we can talk later on, and I believe in 2 slides when we come to utilizing your land. You can collect this beeswax, and on top of hosting Sweetgrass basket weaving classes, you can also host candle making classes. And it can be, they make candles, they pay for what they make. And you can sell those for over $20. And at the same time, so you're making a profit, and at the same time, your guests are happy. So we look at the egg production. One chicken makes about 180 to 260 eggs per year. That's what I researched. And because these are on your land, your own eggs, you can make a price of whatever you want. $6 per dozen is usually what most landowners who produces their own chicken, that's what they've been selling it for, specifically if they were growing organic feed. So I assume that, let's say you had a chicken that was producing 180 eggs, you'll make a minimum of $2,070 per year. And that's if you had 23 hens, of course. And the maximum that you can make is $10 below 3,000. You'll make $2,990. It just depends on the feed that you give them, how happy the chickens are, and what they're able to produce. And also depends on the amount that you have on the property. And then we get to the products of the plants that you are growing, you're currently growing. And the pictures that you gave me, they look nice. They look it is coming along. So I wanted to include the longleaf pines. I know originally I thought you might want to thin them, sell them as like timber to different types of businesses, but instead you mentioned pine straws, which is actually pretty good. And I included that with that 12.79 acres, and depending on how many longleaf pines that you have on the property, I believe at one point you said you had 23 saplings, and I know that you also picked up some plants from the nursery that I provided you. So depending on how serious you want to get with the longleaf pine, you can sell for $100 to $200 per acre just by selling pine straws. And then your gourds are coming along nicely, and you can sell those for up to $15 depending on the size of those gourds as they continue to grow. And rice, um, I assume you're not going to have acres of rice. I know your main thing was you just wanted to use it for aesthetics, and you wanted to use it to let people know about the African American history on your farm. That's why it's called the Learning Roots. So I included the rice per acre just in case you might have a change of mind, or just in case you do actually have, an acre of rice. You can get up to $131. And indigo. Indigo is something that I really can see you doing as well. And you can make that in a powder or a dye. You can produce your own dye. And if you did a powder, you can sell it to $46. If you made your own dye, you can do it for $60 per pound. Indigo is something I wish I would have bolded it on this PowerPoint for you, because indigo is something that I really would like for you to do. Just my preference as well. On top of the honey and the eggs. But I included all of these prices and profits just in case, you do decide to go along and have these, you can make a profit and you can expand your farm more. And then we get to the utilization of the land. And this is something that we talked to together. You mentioned having an Airbnb. I know that that's still probably on the fence a little bit because there's going to be people staying on your property, which I completely understand. So, and also with Airbnbs, there are regulations that you have to make with those. So we were just brainstorming ideas. So Airbnb, a craft store, that goes back to you can sell your eggs there, you can sell your dye there, your powder, you can sell your honey, beeswax, candles. You can sell whatever your land generates in that craft store. So people get tours of the farm, they have fun, and it's like going to an aquarium or something. You hit the gift shop and your product is there. And then you're going to offer these craft classes. So that goes with the basket weaving, most important thing. You can do the basket weaving. You can either host those classes or you can hire additional help to host those classes, because I know you're a busy person. And then you can also host beeswax. You can also host beeswax classes to make candles. And then the annual plant festival, that is something that we came up with other analysts. When I initially gave my updates in a PowerPoint presentation with the other analysts, they mentioned maybe we can have a plant festival there, which means you can have other people bring their plants to your farm, and you can have type of competitions there. You can have $5 admission fees. You can have competitions. It gains attraction for your farm. People can have fun, and then you can make that sort of an annual thing. And that's how you can start on your land now, actually. So that's something that I brainstormed. I know you were surprised by that recommendation, but yeah, that's definitely something that you can possibly do now. And then you mentioned a commercial kitchen, which also comes with rules and regulations. So I know everything is a work in progress, but I see a lot of potential for this land. And these are all things that I can see you doing either as of now or in the near future. And to touch on those items that were unchecked from the agenda list, once you start to expand and develop your land a little bit more, you can start to develop a brand, or you can even work on it now. And a brand doesn't make the business, but at the same time, like you can develop a brand, conduct a logo, you can try to get the word out, and then that leads to advertisement. You can advertise your property. We live in a day and age of social media. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything. We just use advertisement. You can even use billboards, flyers. We want to get word out to this as much as possible. And other ways that we can do it is also included on your management plan. And for I know I keep mentioning this management plan, I will scroll through at the end of this presentation just to show the management plan before I start to take questions. And networking. You can network. We are in COVID right now, so I know you mentioned possibly producing adult coloring books, kid coloring books, because we are in COVID times right now, and it just has like Sweetgrass products or anything that you wanted to include that you feel is important. And I thought that was a great idea as well. And also, once we start to work our way back to having a normal society, put that in quotations, maybe you can outreach to some boys and girls clubs and possibly have field trips there for the Boys and Girls Club. You can have schools as well. Have field trips to your farm, and those kids can have fun. They go back. Me as a child, when I went on field trips, if I enjoyed it, I go back. I tell my parents. My parents used to seize that opportunity that I am showing interest in something, and we go back. And not only do we go back, we expand the word to other people that might have kids. Hey, this might be a good family outing. Hey, this might be a good date night. It's for all ages, all races. It can be. It reaches everybody. So that's one of the things that I feel like can be very helpful for you as far as gaining more attraction to this farm. And I see high hopes for it. So again, thank you to NC Growth and SmartUp. And I want to show my business plan. I blurred out your address just to make sure. But just scrolling through it, of course, I'm not going to go through everything, but this is just my introduction, me understanding Kisha and what she wants to do, her management goals and objectives. And then I do the overview and approach, which is just everything that she mentioned that she want to do. I'm doing all the research to make sure like, hey, is this possible? Is this feasible for her to do? I include the insurance, why she wants to have insurance, different types of insurance that she could have. These are the rules and regulations as far as having chickens. So like I said, I have a lot of different rules that I didn't touch on, but she has this information. She has the links to the muni codes that I use. So everything that I mentioned does have a source there for you, Kisha. And these are for the bees. Maps of your property. So again, we want to have maps of your property so that we can see exactly the size, when the property ends, when it begins. We want to have as much details as possible as far as old buildings, date back all the way before you even had this land. We want to have old buildings, water lines, as much information as we possibly can gain. So these are the maps that you provided me, and I thank you for that. These are going more into the utilization of the land and going a little bit more into detail on what you have to do and why I would recommend that you can do these things. This is your wish list of the things that you mentioned possibly doing within the COVID times. And then now I start to construct these graphs to let you know about, okay, longleaf pine, indigo, gourds, rice, provide you just the pH, the soil types, the climate, the profits that you can get from it. These are the list of egg breeding chickens that you can possibly do research on and try to figure out what you feel is more suitable for your land, the supplies and costs of these chickens, profits, honeybees. Also included a little bit of information. So like a single honeybee can produce about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her lifetime, which is about 6 weeks. And then a colony of bees can produce far more. So depending on your location, you can charge $1,000. Not $1,000. Sorry. You can charge up to $10. And then I mentioned that realistically, you'll harvest about 60 pounds of bees per hive that you have on there. So that's why I mentioned that you can have that exemption from the honey. And other than that, I am done. Kisha, I enjoyed working on this project with you. I hope that you enjoyed working on it as well. And I need to check the chat because I couldn't see it on here for any questions that you guys might have.
Tyrik, you could just disregard mine. Most of mine were just comments on the things you were saying. I didn't have any questions. Anyone else on the call has questions for Tyrik?
I don't want to talk a whole lot, but I do want to say it was an excellent presentation. And going through this process helped me to see some weaknesses or areas of opportunities that I hadn't identified previously, specifically zoning in the issue with constructing something that would allow us to access the property in the back, you know, and because of the limitation that we face, then we will reconsider what we will do with that particular area. But, you know, I think there's a lot of opportunity still. And now, you know, the things that we had considered getting into, and excuse me, because I'm having some difficulty with my vocal cords, but we were looking at participating in an event in May, which is called I believe it's the Ag and Art Festival or some type of event. And so we've begun construction on our home here. And because of that, we may not be able to participate because we don't want people on the property, you know, when there's construction. But there are other opportunities we're looking to get involved with. And so, you know, I just want to thank you for presenting these things that we hadn't considered. And, you know, but we're still moving forward because there are still some things we can continue to do. So this is perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Are there
And
any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say I can take questions. I don't, yeah, if anyone wants to ask me anything.
Good deal. So are there any questions from some of our guests that are on the call?
I don't have any questions per se, but just wanted to say that Tyrik, you did a very thorough job at looking at, you know, just your clients' needs, and you covered a lot of ground. So I'm sure that gave Kisha a lot of things to think about. And Kisha, you know, your tribute to your family history and all the things that you are continuing with that legacy, I just think it's phenomenal, and I look forward to seeing things grow at your farm. And I'll be definitely peeking to see what's happening there.
I wanted to add this, and Kisha could possibly you know, add to it if she'd like. One of the things, and I'm not sure if you guys got this, but there actually is a shortage of sweetgrass. Or maybe it's not a shortage, but it's not as I'll let Kisha speak to it, which is why one of the reasons why she started this farm. Go ahead, Kisha.
Yeah, so historically, we would be able to go on to different properties and visit areas which were easily accessible to us. But now with the continued development of properties in the coast and the low country, we just don't have the access to these resources that we used to have. And so that's posing a challenge of getting the materials. And so, you know, what came to mind is, well, if I can't go get the materials, then I'll grow them myself. And so that's what we're doing in response to the difficulty of getting the materials. And, you know, not only that, it's something that, you know, I feel I have to continue doing. You know, I started doing this when I was a little girl, and I owe it to my mother and my grandmother and her sister to keep doing this because they face challenges in their lives. You know, they face the challenge of getting people to see the significance of it. well, they took care of that part. And now my challenge is to make sure it continues and make sure that, the resources are there. And so that's what I'm having to do. But it is an obligation. It's something that it's ingrained in me. Like, how can I not sew a basket? It just wouldn't even be right. So historically, we've had that difficulty, and hopefully moving forward, the history will be that, and hopefully I'll be an example to other weavers that despite whatever you might be dealing with, take control of what it is that you have and make the best of it. We've got land, everyone has access to a little something, even if it's just their backyard. Plant your own sweetgrass. And you can keep doing it. So hopefully I will be to be able to, tell my grandmother who's 95 years old, who can't do it anymore, I'm going to keep making sure that we continue this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that definitely
You're welcome.
puts the work that we do in perspective of helping you to do the things that you have a passion for and the things that you like to do with your business. There's a couple of things that I wanted to mention before we wrap up. The work that we do is, I think, fairly unique. And we like for our analysts to be creative in their problem solving. And sometimes when they're meeting with a particular client, sometimes it's clear cut what they want. And sometimes, we have the flexibility of coming in and helping them to fine tune what it is that they want. But some of the things that I think happened in this particular situation is that, as Tyrik was talking to Kisha about some of the things that she wanted to do, he instinctively knew, wait a minute, let's step back a little bit. Let's make sure that you actually have the right soil to plant the things that you want to plant and to harvest. And so, Tyrik, which was interesting because, I guess we automatically assume if it's something that we want to do, we just do it. Well, sometimes the resources that we have may not be sufficient to let us be successful in those things. And I think we were able to determine that most of the things that Kisha wanted to do, she was able to do, but there might have been one or two things that she has to rethink because, and Tyrik, do you want to just briefly talk about that process? Because that was enlightening for me about the soil testing.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is when it comes to specific types of plants, I take a lot of horticulture classes at NC State. So the first thing that we do is talk soil. That's the number one goal. So anytime someone mentioned plants, even I have a lot of plants at my home. So like when I have plants at my home, the first thing I want to do is like, okay, what soil, what climate, what everything that we need. And for land soil in particular, we have soil tests, people that will do all of that for us. And all we have to do is do simple researches, read, and be like, okay, it prefers, let's say, heavy clay type soils. Do I have heavy type soils on my land? If not, it's not the end of the world. We just have to incorporate it on there. It's going to be more money to incorporate that soil type on your land and make sure that we keep up with it. It's also going to cost probably a lot of money to make sure that your pH is going to be at the right value so that we can have optimum growth with that plant. So that's one of the biggest things that I thought about because, again, landowners are quick to ask, what's it going to cost me? How much can I make? So I like to harp on that idea, like, okay, I don't want you to waste your money buying and planting all these things you think is going to work, but then I will feel bad if I didn't do the research and be like, hey, that's not feasible. I feel like that's an injustice to Kisha. So I just wanted to make sure, like, hey, take a step back, do what you learned in class, and then we can move forward.
Awesome. Good deal. Good deal. So that was just one of the things that I've noticed when I was talking to Kisha and Tyrik. That was just one of the many things that I noticed with these types of projects that we're doing. Our students are innovative. They're using the skills and the research that they're learning in school as master's and PhD students. And so I'm just happy that we're able to help businesses like Kisha and Mr. Hamilton with SS Hamilton Tree Farms in Green Pond. So, you know, we do some good work, and thank you so much, Ms. Kinard, for allowing us to work with you. And we look forward to continuing that relationship, and we'll be in touch soon. And again, before we close out, are there any other comments or feedback or questions before we close? Okay. We do have 2 more presentations later this afternoon. We have Freedom Air HVAC, which has some workforce development workforce development, learning design, a platform that was built. That's at 12. And then at 3, we have Bowman Vineyards, which deals with more marketing and website development. So if anyone would like to join us, we'll see you later this afternoon. Have a good day. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.